Hi, this is Tony Verhoeven. I am the marketing manager with CSIA. And this episode, we're interviewing Jeff Miller with Interstates Control Systems. Did I say your company name right?
You did.
All
Thank
right.
you.
There it is. Oh, and you got your logo on your shirt there. So great. Thanks for joining us, Jeff.
Thank you. I'm glad to do so.
Jeff, I've gotten to know you over the last couple of years here, and I've seen you recently take a new position here. You are currently, well, you've been on the board, right?
Right.
And now you've recently taken over as chairman.
Correct. Yes, my first year as chairman, and very much enjoying it, and getting to know a lot more people through that role. So yeah.
Excellent, excellent. So, Jeff, you've been a member for a long time of CSIA and a member, I think, of the Best Practices Committee.
Correct. I actually just looked yesterday. We've been a member since 2002, and we've been certified since 2003. So we got started, and then I have been on Best Practices Committee. I think I started in 2002. Spent quite a bit of time helping. Then I was chair of the Best Practices Committee for quite a few years, and I'm still on the Best Practices Committee as chairman of the board, but probably not going to be as active as I have been in the past. So
right. You got the ship to steer, right?
That's right.
Very good, very good. So, I just wanted to have a good conversation with you and help our viewers get to know you better. You know, people typically do business with people they like and know and trust, not with logos. Logos don't do business with one another. So, love to talk to you a little bit about how you got into this business. How did you become a control system engineer? Was that you wanted to be that instead of an astronaut maybe growing up?
Yeah, actually not. My dad was a power engineer, worked in the transformer business his whole life. And he got me interested in engineering. And I went to engineering school, and I actually went into power engineering, moved all the way to Arkansas for 4 years and worked for Arkansas Power and Light, and kind of got my feet wet as a service engineer, somebody who spends a lot of time with clients. And I really liked that, being able to spend time with clients and find out what their problems are and help them solve, not just design something for them, but really solve a problem that they had. And so I did spend 10 years of my career working in the transformer business, though, when I moved back from Arkansas Power and Light. But it was the service part of our business again there. We did a lot of service work for large power companies, servicing their substation transformers. And so I got involved in a lot of that. We built a lot of equipment that had automation in it. Although back in those days, it wasn't as sophisticated as the automation we have today. So I always really liked that, just engineering on the fly and trying to find things that would help a customer really solve a problem. And when I came to Interstates, I came into the project management world, and I had managed a lot of project type teams, but what I, again, really enjoyed there was just getting to know clients, finding out how we could really build a solution that did what they needed, not just what they were asking for, because many times the client didn't know what was even possible. So that's what's really cool about this business as a systems integrator. You see other things you can really do to help them get better at what they do, solve their problems, even though they didn't even know they had a problem sometimes.
Right,
so,
right, exactly.
Yeah, so it's a cool business,
Yeah, sometimes it seems like if there's no smoke, there's no fire, right?
Right, exactly.
So nothing's wrong, right? And you might still be some things going on behind.
Right.
Kind of.
And you learn to listen. I think that's probably, from our clients, we are a very relationship built company, and I would guess that a lot of integrators are. But for me, that means I listen to what you're trying to solve. What problem are you trying to solve when you come to us to build a solution. And then we're a design build company. We can build the solution that best meets your needs, not, just exactly what your functional spec says. Because we find out through a lot of interviewing along the way that your functional spec missed some key things that you might need. And it doesn't even mean that we have to change the price, because we're very used to building as a design build mentality, which means we know the design's not fully baked. We've got a lot of work to do to find out what you really need.
Got it. So tell me a little bit about what Interstates specializes in. Do you guys specialize in more manufacturing, discrete, or process, or a little bit of both?
A lot of very much process oriented. We do a lot of discrete manufacturing too, but I would say we cut our teeth in the process industries, and we're our main focus is in value-added ag. We do a ton of work in converting ag products to a finished product. So any kind of it really is classified as food and beverage, a lot of the work that we do, but it's very specialized in, making soybean oil, making canola oil, making ethanol, biodiesel, but chemical manufacturing, very similar. A lot of things are very similar there, but very heavy process industries. And then we work with, several manufacturing companies in their discrete manufacturing, in packaging equipment, in building the widgets, automating equipment that builds that, including, food manufacturing, where things like you're building cinnamon rolls, or you're building butter braids, or things like that. So a lot of, again, food and beverage type things, but very process industry heavy.
What are some of the biggest challenges that you're hearing, that you're tackling, or maybe hearing from your clients right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's changed a lot I would say in the last 3 years, we're hearing, everybody's hearing about industrial Internet of Things. And, we've been doing research on that for probably 5 years or better, trying to be ahead of the market and make sure that we know what's real and what isn't, what's hype and what can really be done. And so we've been able to coach a lot of clients into what's the best things to do right now versus try everything. So I'm sensing that, that market has really changed how much information our customers need to collect as well as analyze in some fashion. So we're seeing a lot more just data analytics work. We're hiring people that are more data scientists. We got a lot of computer science and electrical engineers, but now you're seeing a lot more mathematicians, guys that are just very good at analyzing data and helping customers figure out what makes sense. So a big challenge for the industry is, how do you hire differently? We got a whole new industry we need to hire for here. So, but still doing a tremendous amount of just standard automation work, but at we're seeing a lot more Ethernet networking type equipment. So your networks now are much more complicated than they've ever been. Motor control centers are Ethernet based now. So, how do you build your switch system and your network to be able to handle all that traffic that's going to be there? So we have one of our departments is strictly focused on just manufacturing IT and how we can service that market, build the secure networks of the future, not just what we need today, but how do we build a secure control system that you don't have to worry about the WannaCries or the other big, huge viruses that are, really attacking the industry out there today.
Right. Are there security issues that are, well, let me ask you this. Why do you think security is such an issue in industrial systems? Why is that? What are some of the, are there things that clients are doing or not doing, or why is this become such an issue?
Well, so probably one of the biggest challenges to the industrial control systems today, when, if you went back 10 years ago, most of your control system networks were fully disconnected from the business network. So you had instead of needing a firewall to protect traffic coming through to your control system network, you really had a physical disconnect there. There was no, unless somebody brought a thumb drive in and plugged it into a computer, and even when they did, you didn't have internet connected to your controls network. That's totally changed today. And almost every control system today is connected through the business network to the outside world. We do remote support with those customers. So we've got VPN connections. You've got a tremendous amount of potential for being hacked that you didn't have before. So you need to build more security into your system. Give it we just have hackers that they're just out to cause havoc. They don't care where it happens, but industrial networks, controls networks are being hacked all the time today. It's something that they're looking for I'm sure you've heard of the Stuxnet virus, and, we do a tremendous amount of research on all these types of viruses and how are they exploiting industrial control systems. You just have to be more concerned with that today than you used to, because hackers know if they can get into an industrial control system and just tweak the formulas a little bit even, they can cause somebody to get hurt through, a shampoo that got developed or whatever, that they add, a little less of this, a little more of that. And, all of a sudden you've got a really bad product out on the market. So lots of different things that can happen there.
So do you think that are hackers, are they seeking out industrial systems and utilities, or are they just kind of putting brute force hacks and attacks out there? Is it, I guess, are they looking for they're like, hey, I know this is a water utility and I'm going to try to do something.
Right.
I know this is a motor and I'm going to try to make it go to 1 billion RPM, which
Right. Yeah. So I'd say it's twofold. Some of the industries, like power, for instance, and water, wastewater, those are things that, are being hacked or trying to be hacked more frequently. They can disrupt, they can really disrupt us a lot better by doing something like that. Industrial control systems, a lot of those are being hacked or getting viruses through the same thing that you might get at home, like the WannaCry virus. That was intended for, businesses. It was really a virus that was out to try to, ransom a bunch of computers that would now, they get money to unencrypt your hard drives. So it was meant to disrupt. They get money through that. Most of your hackers out there today are just trying to cause havoc. They're not after money. They just do it because they enjoy causing havoc. And, this has been my assumption is I really feel like, probably the cyber attacks of the future will be they're going to be the types of things that they're really there to be a terrorist attack. They're going to shut down water, wastewater in a big area or shut the power grid down. That's what they're after. They're just looking for ways to really cause pain for us. So whether it's a business or the U.S. in general. So
yeah, looking for rewards in the headlines, I suspect.
Yeah. They don't even care if they got any money out of it. They just enjoy being in the headlines.
Right. What are some of the skills that you find most useful in your day-to-day work?
Well, so my day-to-day and what the group that I manage the biggest, I'm the director of our project management team for Interstates, and communication skills, huge. One of the things that if I had to pick the top 3 things that a PM needs to be the best at, communication and proactive communication. How do you help your client know what they need to know before they ask for it? That's how we win job after job with our clients, because we're very proactive communicators. But in addition to that, being very good risk managers and just overall troubleshooters of the system. What's going on with my project management processes that are causing my client issues that maybe every other customer has been just fine with, but looking for ways to improve just an entire continuous improvement process is what we're all about. So, I think those skills are very evident in everybody we look to hire. We're after those that are the top performers in those areas.
Sure. Well, great. That leads perfectly into my next question it's no skill or it's no secret that finding good skilled engineers is a challenge for an engineer, maybe in school, fresh out of school, maybe in high school, who is thinking about, I like how electrons flow, or I like
Right.
to do, I like working my hands or things like that.
Right.
Why should they look at maybe industrial automation or control systems as a career opportunity?
Right.
And what kind of experience should they have?
So, that's an interesting question. In particular, we've really changed our methodology around hiring. We used to always look for very experienced people, and what we found was their experience doesn't correlate to the controls industry. If they're electrical engineer or a power engineer, we still have a lot of training to do, and sometimes untraining to do. So we've really pushed very hard. We do a lot of recruiting at the colleges, and not only that, but teach in their classrooms and get involved in their activities so they get to know us. We before we ever look at hiring them, we hire a tremendous amount of interns today and co-ops with the intention of trying out a lot of potential employees, getting them into real work right away and letting them see if that's the kind of work that they really want to do. That has been tremendously successful for us. I would say we still hire probably 20% of our people are more experienced, but 80% of them today would be more fresh college grads or 1 year of experience, been out of college and maybe haven't even had their first real job yet. But we're, it used to be the total opposite of that. Maybe 80% we wanted were experienced and 20% out of the schools. It's just really flipped upside down from that perspective. And honestly, very successful. The new engineers coming out of college, it's not that they have a different experience. They are very used to trying new things and troubleshooting. They've been programming or on electronics since they were 3 years old, so they've learned the trades at a different level. They understand how to do things that, I didn't learn till I was in my 40s. I didn't even have an email account till I moved to Interstates. Never had email. So been here for almost 20 years now, and that just goes to show what's changed over time.
Not even a Prodigy or a CompuSoft or Compu.
Oh, I think at home I definitely had a dial-up internet connection, but I it was probably AOL. But at work, I really didn't have an email account.
We're starting to date.
Never had one. So we did everything by phone, And, to be honest, that's one of the things that we have to teach the younger generation as they come in. You do need to pick up the phone. Instant message and text doesn't always work. Customers still like to be talked to in person and by phone. So I've done a lot of coaching in that area to help them understand the benefits of both. You do have some benefits. It's more instant with instant messaging and texting and email, but it's also less personal, and we're a relationship company. We really want you to build a relationship.
Yeah. Well, so it's interesting that you mentioned that, because you said something earlier about, I asked you about some of the skills that you have, and you mentioned, communications, right? And so
right.
these aren't necessarily things that are thought about in engineering school, right? And so
right.
who'd have thought that, maybe an engineers or should also study some of these soft business skills as well, right?
Right. And that's one of the things that's key with Interstates. We do a tremendous amount of training with our employees related to, our goal is to give them a very well-rounded career. So you're going to get soft skills training. You're going to get leadership training, obviously technical training, but it is a very well-rounded employee when they come through our training program. And we focus really heavily on building that next level of the leadership skills. So we have a pipeline of leaders that, we feel very comfortable if I got hit by the bus tomorrow on the way to work, I have someone already identified that could fill my role. And we do that for all of our key roles. So from a client's perspective, the huge benefit you get there is I don't have to worry about if Joe leaves the company. There's 3 other people that have learned under Joe and can really come in and keep my business as a client. They can keep their business running as well. So we do a tremendous amount of 24-hour support for our clients. We have probably 20 full-time employees that do nothing but 24-hour support. And so a process company is down, their line's down, they can't produce product. They're losing money every minute they're down, and they know how much it costs. And so we have people on call 24 hours a day that get them back up and running. And they're not project team members. They're 100% dedicated to support. And they're kind of the jack of all trades. They know all the different technologies that we work in. So been a huge benefit to our clients as well as, even our team members. We pull people out of support, move them into project teams because they're such good project team members after learning, through putting fires out, how you really need to design and implement a control solution.
Right. So let's I guess lead that into the best practices. You talked a little bit about the next man up, next person up.
Right.
Maybe even leading into succession a little bit. So maybe tell our listeners. Maybe there's a system integrator owner listening right now.
Mm-hmm.
There's an integrator or integrator owner listening right now, or perhaps there's a client listening right now who's been using an integrator for a long time, has a great relationship,
right.
but maybe they're not a CSIA member. Maybe this, it seems like a lot of system integrator owners are, 58 years old, been running
Right.
for 30 years, and maybe haven't discovered CSIA yet. So why would a system integrator, with 30 years in very successful business, want to implement the best practice? Well, why would they want to join the best practices or implement the best practices? And what are the best practices? Maybe I asked that.
Right. Yeah. So that's a great question. So I joined Interstates back in 1999, and in 2002, we had actually went to a few annual conferences before that, and that's where we started getting engaged in what CSIA is all about. And then in 2003, I pushed us we're going to get certified. I grabbed the best practices and I said, why would you not do this? It covers every aspect of a system integrator's business from, ultimately from the, how do I build business, business development, what are my HR practices? It covers, succession planning. How do you make sure that you're going to be here in the next 50 years, that the company will still be able to survive you. But also in just project management practice, system development life cycle, supporting areas like how do I make sure my client has everything they need to be able to continue to operate their systems after I leave. So it was a great process. It took us about a year to get through preparing all the standard operating procedures we needed. We were we did it for the very intention of becoming a better business, though it had nothing to do with, we had no clients asking for it. But I looked at it and I said, I know we will be a much better business when we finish this. And we've now we just were certified for our 7th time. It's every 3 years. And in December, we went through our seventh audit. And you know, the reason we continue to become certified is because every time we audit, we find something different that we need to improve on. It's a continuous improvement process for us. And I'm a strong believer in, if you're not continuously improving, you're going backwards. And as a systems integrator, technology changes so fast, you have got to be constantly thinking about how you're going to reinvent yourself every 3 years. And a good example of that is in project management methodologies. In the controls industry, you know, we've been using waterfall type methodology for delivering projects forever. But we now have implemented a lot of agile practices in there. Our clients love it because they get to see their system at lots of places during the delivery. And they no longer think of us as we're delivering black magic to them, and they only see it during, you know, checkout, commissioning, and startup. And man, I sure hope that it does what it's supposed to do. Or the first time I see is a user acceptance test, and I'm just hoping it's going to do what it says it's going to do. They see it a lot of times between day one of design through the last time you're at their plant site for the final startup things. So it's been a huge benefit for us, and it's a huge benefit for our clients as well.
Excellent. So, and maybe just to tie a bow on the best practices, and I think we've mentioned this previously in other episodes, but in case you're not familiar with the best practices, they are a series. Basically, it's the best practices manual is correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, or fill in any holes, but the best practices manual covers all the dimensions of a system integrator business, from
correct,
right, human resources and sales and general management and project management and finance and all the different areas, right, that an integrator would have, and a lot of businesses actually, frankly, would have.
Right.
And these are going to get into really the minutia of, do you have this process or this thing in place in your business? And it asks,
absolutely,
are you doing this? Yes or no. If you're not doing that, well, there's a business process that that will improve. So one thing would be, I think, you know, again, hearkening back to what you said about something happens to you, you know, hit by the bus theory. You know, if the business owner is the most important part of the business, it has his or her hands in everyday operations, what happens if that person gets sick or worse?
Right.
Or retires, right? Wants to retire.
Right.
What happens to the business? What happens to the customers? And so the best practices are things that going to make sure that there is some sort of redundancies in that business, so that things will continue to happen in case. Correct. One of those.
And it's a growth process too. You know, we've changed tremendously as we've grown. When I started with Interstates in 1999, I think we were 32 or 33 employees, mostly engineering, you know, with a few admin staff, to today we're 180 employees, you know, and, you know, just the whole, how do you run your business when you got that much bigger? And best practices has been able to sustain us through all those big changes. So what we realized was, every time you hit a potential milestone, like I know 50 was one of the first milestones for us, that, you know, we need to adjust how we manage our staff, because, you know, I was the only HR person. I was hiring, I was firing, I was teaching, I was doing everything. You couldn't do that any longer once you got to that 50 range. Then when we hit 100, we had another big milestone that we just said, you know, we just can't manage the way we used to manage. We need to add some other layers in here, things that can help us make sure that our employees are being taken care of, that our clients are being taken care of, and that we continue to continuously improve. So it was, you know, that's just things that we learned through talking with other systems integrators at the annual conference for CSIA. We learned through implementing best practices, but also just in sharing best practices with other integrators. We're involved in a peer group for systems integrators. I think there's 8 or 9 other companies in our peer group. And that has been huge for us. We've shared best practices. We've learned from them. They've learned from us. We've partnered with some of them on projects. You know, you always are looking to, you know, man, I got a huge valley coming, or I've got a huge peak coming. How can one of my system integrator partners help me with that? So it's huge for our clients because we don't have to say no. We can still deliver. We still do the design, get them exactly what they need. We just get help from other people on occasion. So, and we met all those people, built those relationships through CSIA and in particular the annual conferences.
I think the coolest thing about the system integrator community, especially with CSIA, is occasionally I'll get a call from an integrator and they'll say, hey, I'm in Ohio or wherever, and we've got a customer out in Washington State. I can't get there. They've got a control panel that's broken or some sort of that's down, and they will trust a fellow member to go in there and fix it and handle their client because they can't get there in time. And
That's
so I think it's a great kind of collaboration, as though, you know, even though you might be at a conference or in maybe even a peer group with someone who's maybe a pseudo competitor, I think under this CSIA umbrella it's a great community where you're all here kind of really for the same reason.
Right. And ultimately the whole goal of CSIA was always to improve the systems integrator market space. We wanted businesses to improve so that end user clients would get a better end product. And all of these business practices that you put together are helping you deliver better to your client. You know, and ultimately for Interstates, you know, we lose less money on what we would call killer jobs where, you know, we bid it and didn't know enough about, you know, how we were bidding it. We just don't, that doesn't happen like that near as much anymore. And you know, we've always been the type of integrator that our clients never have to be concerned that we're going to leave them hang. You know, we're going to stick with it no matter what it costs us to get it done. But we don't have to worry about that near as much anymore because we're not, you know, we know much more about what the client needs, and we're asking a lot better questions today because of the continuous improvement that we did through CSIA's best practices. So I'm a strong believer in it. And like I said, I've been on best practices committee for more years than I can even imagine to say. I've actually helped develop version 3, 4, and 5. And so I'm very bought into it. But for the reason that I really think that the more integrators that use it, the better we're going to be at providing a great end product to our clients.
Yeah, and that's ultimately the crux of the issue is when all integrators are implementing the best practices, they're all more professional, which is ultimately better for the client. It's better for the industry and
yep. And I'd say better for the systems integrator industry in particular, because we have less, you know, some clients, if they've had a bad experience, it takes a long time to build trust with them. If they've had good experiences, you know, they partner very easily with people. Now, they typically stick with, you know, whoever is delivering for them today, you know, so you build that long-term partnership. But if they've had a bad experience, our experience with them has been, it takes some time. It takes maybe 2 or 3 projects to really prove to them that we're different, you know, that we're out to solve your issue and we're here to serve you. We're not here to make Interstates great. It's about serving you. So, and I love that about Interstates because we've, you know, it truly is a servant leadership model. And I've noticed that when the first day that I came to work for them, I knew something was different. I didn't know what to call it, but now I know what to call it.
Right. So I guess we've touched on it a little bit, but let's dig in a little bit, really kind of from the client's perspective. You know, why why should a client hire a CSIA certified integrator? What do they get? You know, it's the old radio station WII-FM.
Yeah, yeah.
What's in it for me?
Yep, yep. So for, and this would be from, from the clients that we do service work or integration work or whatever with. They know that you at least follow a set of standards. It doesn't mean, I can be 100% honest. Every integrator, no matter if they're CSIA certified or not, will have a bad project. Sometimes it's, it happened to be, we thought we had a good understanding of scope, but for some reason we didn't get it all. We've had several situations where a general contractor that we worked for would not let us talk to the end client. They protected that, and we didn't get the real scope from the end client. But the cool thing with it is it's certified by a third party auditor. It's kind of like, I know some large customers of ours have auditors that come in and just certify that you're doing things that feel like they would be the best way to do them. So you're following best practices. Best practices doesn't give you any, none of the standard operating procedures that I have today came from best practices. The theory behind them came from best practices. So that's where I think the benefits really come from for an end client. It's certified by a third party every 3 years that this person continues to follow and continuously improves through the use of best practices.
Let's shift gears here a little bit. What are some of the cool things? What gets you out of bed as far as what kind of innovations are happening right now in industrial automation and control systems with your clients? Or what do you want to tell your clients about? Like, you should be doing this. This is cool.
Right. Yeah. So, and we talked a little bit about this earlier, the industrial Internet of Things is really changing. There's still a lot of things that are very early in the game. There's so many vendors that are trying to produce products for the industrial Internet of Things. But the cool thing is it is going to happen, and it is happening right under our noses today. And we love to do the R&D side of that, try to figure out how can we best serve our client market with tools and techniques or new pieces of hardware that really can add value to our clients. We have a lab that we're actually bringing a lot of those things in. We spend time trying it in a lab environment. We get a couple of clients that will, take it on. Let us try this in your facility, and then we'll see if it's going to work in an industrial environment, and then give them the benefit of trying some of that new and innovative stuff. But really, where we're seeing where our clients are gaining the most from that is in how well they can collect data, and then the tools that are available today to analyze that data and put it into more of a dashboard view or something that really shows, hey, I got a problem happening and it looks like it's on line 1, but there's a bottleneck somewhere. Let's go figure out what it is. Well, the data is helping them figure out what their bottlenecks are. We go in and we ask for what are your problems you're trying to solve, and then we look to see, can we collect more data and help you find the real solution there. And had some tremendous successes with it, just literally taking huge bottlenecks out of their systems to just their production's up, their quality's up, and their people are much more happy with working for them because they realize, hey, my plant's not going down as often as it used to. So I think that's really some of the stuff that we just get very excited about, is how we can add more value to the client when most of it not even that expensive. It's really reapplying some of the technologies they already have but just in better ways. So I think we're going to see a continued push for that, though, in the industrial space, and in particular in the industrial space.
What do you tell lay people what you do? How do you explain this?
My wife still tells me, I still don't know what you do. But, you know, it is, you really do need kind of an elevator speech for that, so you can kind of show them. But if you think about when you look at something that you have in your house, shampoo, you know, the fuel that you burn in your car, all of that requires a certain amount of automation to be able to do it well and make it in a quality fashion and protect the employees that are working around it. A lot of the control systems, the big thing that it's doing for them, it makes decisions in microseconds that a human wouldn't even notice that were happening until we're already in a big problem, you know. So it's about building a solution that saves lives, produces better quality product, and, you know, really more production capacity for them. So it's not about replacing, you know, for the most part, the people are still there, but it really is helping them do things that are more valuable that a human can do better. Let the computers do the things that they're the best at. Let the humans do the things that they're best at.
Absolutely. So at the beginning of our conversation, you mentioned that you moved to Arkansas. When was that? Was that as a teenager, or where were you born, and how did you?
Yeah. So
did you move there?
it's interesting because I actually was born in Arkansas.
Okay.
My parents moved to the north to a company that does transformer rebuilding. My dad was the engineer. He'd been in a transformer company his whole career up until that point. But in 1975, we moved from Arkansas. I was in 8th grade at the time. I grew up I was in a town, but much bigger town. The town we moved to was a town of 500 people. So, it was much different. I could be in all the sports. In fact, you pretty much had to be, because we didn't have enough to have a sports team if not all the guys in the class went out. So we got to do pretty much everything we wanted. And I then went to engineering school in a small college, a state college, just north of the town we lived in, South Dakota State University. Got my power engineering degree. And then that's when I moved back to Arkansas. I thought, it's pretty cold up in the north. I think I want to go south for a while. And my wife actually is from the north, and she's the one that pushed me pretty hard to take a job in the south. We lived there for 4 more years and realized, you can always put more clothes on to stay warm, but you can't take enough off to get cold. So we moved back to the north because it was too hot in the south. So, and we had 2 kids at that point. We had our first 2 children, and it's kind of nice to be around grandparents again. So we moved back to the same town and spent another 10 years working for kind of a sister company to the company my dad worked for. And then I decided it was time to spread my wings and do something a little different. And I wound up at Interstates. It was actually, I wandered into the town looking for a job. Didn't even know there was a company by the name of Interstates. And just walked in. I was interviewing in a different company. And I had a phone call before I even got home that day. They had already left me a message at home. There weren't a lot of cell phones in those days. But I came back the next day, and within a week I was working for them and I just absolutely fell in love with Interstates and what they stand for. And so that's been my story, and I'm sticking to it. It's been, I tell every employee that I interview, and I interview a lot of employees to come to work for Interstates. And if, we do not micromanage. I love it. But we are very leader oriented. We want people to all become leaders. And so we do a tremendous amount of leadership training. And I think that's why people stick around. They love the fact that we invest a tremendous amount of money in our employees.
That's excellent. That's excellent. So how many years has it been now that you've been?
Almost 20. I'll be celebrating a new anniversary. So, but yeah, I've loved, I just can't imagine going back to working for a company like all the other companies I'd worked for before Interstates. So.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, Jeff, I really appreciate the time that you spent with us today, and hopefully people learn some things. I definitely learned some things about you today. Anything else you want to close with or make sure somebody knows about Interstates?
Well, I just would encourage, all of the, whether you're an integrator, look at the Control System Integrators Association. You will be very surprised at how much benefit you can get from joining an organization like that. From an end client's perspective, look for integrators that do things well, that are poised well for the future, so they will be around for the long term. We've put a tremendous amount of focus into making sure that we've got new people always moving up into the new spots to take over for those of us that are trying to become better leaders and move into new spots as well. So we do a lot of work in transition planning, just being really purposeful about making sure we have the next generation ready to go before they're needed. So yeah, and I really appreciate you taking the time, Tony, today to interview me. I've enjoyed doing it, and look forward to seeing many of you if you come to our annual conference. I'd love to see you there. I'll be there for sure.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jeff. We have an annual conference usually in April or early May. Check out CSIAexecutiveconference.org. And Jeff, go ahead and give your domain and your website real quick.
Yes, our domain is www.interstates.com, and you'll find plenty of good information out there.
Thank you, Jeff. Jeff Miller, Interstates.
Thank you.